Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our full council meeting. There's no planned fire drill today, so if the alarm does go off, please vacate the room and make your way to the car park at the front of the building. When they're finished, mine's doing it itself today. Can I also remind everyone we have a 30-minute training session at the end of the meeting, facilitated by Natalie King from the HR manager, that is taking place immediately after this meeting following a short comfort break. Julie, are we live streaming? Thank you. Julie, would you like to do the roll call?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Ashby, Councillor Askew, Councillor Atterwill, Councillor Bambridge, Councillor Bate, Councillor Annie Blackburn, Councillor David Blackburn, Councillor Borrett, Councillor Bowes, Councillor Brindle, Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen, Councillor Sam Chapman-Allen, Councillor Clark,
Present.
Councillor Clausen, Councillor Cogman, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Crane, Councillor Duffield, Councillor Eagle, Councillor Fraser, Councillor Gilbert, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Hewitt, Councillor Hunter Clark, Councillor Hussey, Councillor Kiddell, Councillor Kiddle-Morris, Councillor King, Councillor Kybird, Councillor Land, Councillor Middleton, Councillor Morton, Councillor Nunn, Councillor O'Callaghan, Councillor Oliver, Councillor Plummer, Councillor Richmond, Councillor Suggett, Councillor Samantha Taylor, Councillor Sarah Taylor, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Terry, Councillor Turner, Councillor Webb, Councillor Westman, Councillor Wickerson, Councillor Wilkin, and Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Julie. Before we go on to the agenda, many of you may already be aware of the sad passing of former councillor and former Labour group leader, John Mallon. John passed away in December in Priscilla Bacon Lodge after battling with cancer. John was elected in 1997 until 2003 and was a member for the now Upper Wensum ward. He also served as a parish chairman for Baldswell. Many of you may also remember Elaine Wilkes, a former senior committee officer who retired in 2010, who also sadly passed away recently in December. As a mark of respect, I would like us to stand in a minute's silence to reflect and remember them both. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Bainbridge.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention John Mallon. I didn't know John Mallon as a councillor because I actually took his seat from him in 2003. But John was at that time was the parish representative for Beela, which is a very tiny parish in that area, and he later became the parish chairman at Bordswell. And I have to say that over the years, I got to know John well. We worked very well together, even though we were opposed. I apologise. Do you want me to start again? No. I'm just acknowledging John Mallon and my appreciation of him as chairman of Bordswell and of working with him over the last 20 or so years. Thank you.
If nobody else wishes to speak, we'll move on to item 1, Julie, apologies.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have apologies from Councillor Ashby, Councillor Askew, Councillor David Blackburn, Councillor Bowes, Councillor Brindle, Councillor Eagle, Councillor Land, Councillor Plummer, Councillor Richmond and Councillor Wilkin.
Thank you. Any further apologies? Councillor Crane.
Hello, yes, thank you. I have apologies from Councillor Nunn and Councillor Oliver.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 2, the minutes. Are members happy to agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 4th of December 25, found on pages 4 to 12 of your agenda pack? All in favour? Agreed. Anyone against? Oh. Oh, there you go. I thought, oh, you're giving me something nice to read. Just a sign. Yeah, cheers. Item 4, Chairman's announcements. I never like to bore you with what I've been doing, so we'll move swiftly on to item 5, Leaders' announcements. Chapman Allen.
Lovely, thank you, Chairman, and good morning, colleagues. And firstly, I'd like to welcome you all back to our first full council meeting of 2026. A full year ago, at the first full council of 2025, I spoke about the government's plans for local government reorganisation and devolution, which had just been revealed within their white paper on the subject. In the space of the last year, we've seen a lot of change in relation to LGR and devolution. With regards to devolution, colleagues, I want to share that we as a council still remain very disappointed that government has decided to delay the election of a Norfolk and Suffolk mayor until 2028. This decision means that communities will miss out on funding that would have helped benefit key projects and unlock growth in Breckland. My plea to government is that they still release that full £37 million investment fund for Norfolk and Suffolk. This will ensure that this delay doesn't continue to hold back the investment in our region and our communities. With regards to local government reorganisation, I am proud of the work that we've undertaken in the Herculean call, which government imposed upon us. Working in collaboration with 5 councils across Norfolk, we've developed our vision for what reorganisation in Norfolk should look like. Our proposals for 3 unitary councils in Norfolk is an ambitious model that would balance in achieving those efficiencies whilst delivering improved services for the residents of Norfolk. Of course, very sadly, we still await for that decision of the Secretary of State, which will be expected now in March of this year. But on the topic, Chairman, I wish to reaffirm my continued opposition to that postponement of possible local elections in Norfolk by this government. They made this offer that areas undertaking LGR of further postponement, which would affront local democracy and local people. We were told last year that local elections would only be delayed by 1 year. Colleagues, back in December, I wrote to the Secretary of State in December to express my categorical opposition to local elections being postponed. Whilst there is significant capacity, cost and benefit issues being raised in relation to LGR, I do not believe that the delivery of the 2026 local elections has any material relation to these issues. Democracy and trust in political systems are a fragile thing, and I fear that further postponement of elections would cause irreparable damage During the time of such upheaval, it is essential that local people are not deprived of their right to vote. But Chairman, moving away from LGR and devolution, late in December, it was that time when many of us were thinking about Christmas, our families, but of course, those who are less fortunate than ourselves. And part of that challenge is how we continue to deliver and balance the books. Just before Christmas, the local government finance settlement arrived, as always, late from government. This provisional settlement, Chairman, is currently being consulted upon, and my initial thoughts are as follows. Firstly, I do welcome the multi-year settlement. This will provide Breckland with some clarity and certainty over a three-year period, pending LGR. However, that announcement of the settlement has been far too late to aid our financial planning, which I acknowledge is immensely disappointing for everybody in this chamber and officers across the whole of local government. Government's lack of transparency, Chairman, makes it almost impossible to undertake the outcomes. Take new burdens funding for food waste. We have no way, Chairman, of understanding how much has been provided within the settlement. It's been baked in to the offer from government rather than allocated as new burdens funding. The food waste delivery for Breckland alone will see an increase to our services of about £3 million to deliver waste service across the whole of our locality. That's a cost shunt not from central government, but to our residents across Breckland. This wasn't something Breckland residents asked for. This was a mandated decision by central government. We can only assume that hiding this in the overall settlement, MHCLG are attempting to mask the fact that this falls well short of the true cost of delivery. And I would implore government to propose a financial settlement that is open, transparent, and that provides full funding to cover any new burdens any government of the day imposes on local government, and it doesn't disadvantage rural areas such as ours. But Chairman, moving away from finances further, last year I updated colleagues on a meeting which I was asked to attend in Dereham Football Club in relation to concerns and fears in Dereham itself. That work has now progressed at pace. I acknowledge, though, for some people in the community, not fast enough. However, I am pleased to announce that the Public Space Protection Order consultation for Dereham has now commenced. We engaged with those key partners, which we're obliged to do over that Christmas and New Year period, and that has now allowed us to move forward in full public consultation. I implore everybody who has a Dereham link, whether it's a residents, business, ward members in this chamber today, to encourage as many people as possible to engage in that process. They will shape what the future of that PSPO looks like. Of course, we're working harder to advertise the great work which is being undertaken at the Link in Dereham at our business centre, providing that wraparound service for any resident across Dereham, either through referral or self-referral into that facility. But Chairman, in relation to NR19 itself, once again to confirm, the council offices have inspected that building and confirmed that it is still safe, legal and compliant with relevant regulations. Discussions are further ongoing with the landlord and have resulted in the introduction of an independent licensed security staff on that site, following concerns raised by the public around the paid staff at that facility. I can confirm that a follow-up letter has now been sent once again to all Norfolk and Suffolk councils, requesting that they cease to use NR19 for temporary accommodation. In addition, I can confirm that Breckland has pioneered the Norfolk and Suffolk Joint Housing Board, which has been established to improve cross-county and cross-authority coordination in relation to temporary accommodation and homelessness. I would like to thank all my colleagues across Norfolk and Suffolk who have engaged positively so far. I'd also like to thank everybody in the Dereham area and wider area for their continued support and with partners to alleviate the concerns raised by residents locally. In relation to the task force, that work is now ongoing, and that will be split into two parts: a political task force derived of the county council, district councillors and parish council members, and then an operational task force led by key partners. The politics and the partners will be two separate meetings, allowing that operational tactical activity to take place while allowing the politicians to undertake the strategic oversight of that activity, given licence, top cover and the budget allocated to get stuff done. That's what's most important around the task force, getting things done, not just in relation to NR19, but all the other concerns raised around health inequality, access to education, and so much more. Chairman, in relation to work undertaken by Breckland further, I wish to update on the local plan and this mammoth task we undertook before Christmas in relation to the Regulation 18 process. To confirm, local plans are a mandated requirement for all principal planning authorities across the country. This is not a nice to have, this is a requirement. For those councils who don't have a local plan, local plans are imposed upon them by central government. To confirm, we are delayed in where we were previously in our local plan, when we saw this government of today increase our housing target to some 900 homes required per year for over the life of the local plan. However, Chairman, during the Regulation 18 process, we saw a step change in how we engage with residents and businesses across our localities. We saw in-person meetings across all of our market towns and villages, seeing hundreds of residents engaging positively in the process. By saying positively, I don't mean they necessarily agreed. They had concerns, but they appreciated the time to express their concerns, have them heard, have them noted, and allow the opportunity to shape what the plan looks like moving forward. Our local plan at Breckland is a bottom-up approach to how we deliver this government's mandated housing target. The next stage of the plan, Chairman, is for the planning policy team to respond and comment on all those received comments and ensure that as we step forward to the Regulation 19 process, that they are taken into account. The Regulation 19 consultation stage is due to commence in June of this year, with a final opportunity for feedback on the local plan before it is submitted to the examination at the latter part of this calendar year. This, once again, Chairman, will be fully advertised, and members of this council have a briefing at the end of this month in relation to the local plan. I'd like to once again reiterate my thanks to all those who engaged in this process, and the local plan is one of the most important documents a planning authority can produce in some challenging times when you have a challenging housing target derived from government. Finally, Chairman, on Monday of this week, we held the inaugural Big Breckland Breakfast, an event run by our Mindful Towns programme in Bintry of this year. This was allowing local businesses, particularly around the agri and food sector, to come together. A really important piece of work, and I implore all of those who advertised it, but more importantly, thank you to the agricultural sector, which is so important to the economy of Breckland and the economy of this country and the safety and food security of this country. It was well attended, and we're going to make strides to continue to work hard with the Farm Community Network, Yana, and so many more to ensure that this event can go from strength to strength as we move forward, supporting this important part of our sector. Let's ensure we continue to work hard to deliver for all of our residents and businesses into 2026. And I know that there will be further challenges ahead, but yet despite this, I know that we will collectively, collaboratively, across the political sphere, work together in this chamber to hold me and my executive to account to make sure we get stuff done so that residents and businesses can thrive. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman-Allen. Before we carry on with the agenda, we do just have a notice come through. There's a car in the car park with its lights that have been left on. The numbers, I'm going to admit some, is 09BVH. It's a little silver Ford. So if there's anyone in the room that needs to go turn their lights off, please feel free to nip out quickly. And then we'll move on to item 6, which is questions on notice, understanding order number 6. They're attached in the agenda pack. So we'll move on to item 7, questions without notice, understanding order number 7. Councillor Cogman? No? No? Okay. Harry?
It goes to
No.
Councillor Cogburn.
Yeah, yeah.
So you haven't got a question?
No.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. Leader, thank you for the written answer you gave on Breckland's working from home policy. You might call it remote enabled working, but please let's call it what it is. I'm not against this in some cases, but to have a blanket policy doesn't seem quite right or proportionate. And I'm a little bit surprised that you don't actually know what the policy is. At a meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee in December, I raised this and my question was answered by our Deputy Chief Executive, who was quite clear that we do operate such a policy and that there is, I quote, an expectation that members of staff come into the office on an average of 2 days a week. Now, this implies that that isn't mandatory, so can we please have clarification, number 1, on that? And can I also ask you, therefore, Leader, who is right? Are you correct in your answer that you've given in writing, or is the Deputy Chief Executive correct? You can't both be. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I would never want to challenge what the monitoring officer said at Overview and Scrutiny. I wasn't present. I haven't seen the recording or the minutes. To clarify, all Breckland staff's place of employment is Elizabeth House here in Dereham. We don't have a home working policy. We don't provide kit and equipment, desks, or anything like that from a HMRC perspective for people to work from home. We were at the vanguard to ensure that when the pandemic hit, that our staff were equipped to be able to work anywhere to do the job they're required to do to support residents and businesses. And let's take an example. I don't need an environmental health officer to do their work here in this office. I needed my environmental health officers to be in the community doing the food inspections, the licensed premises inspections and alike. We work on an outcome-focused position on our workforce, and some of our workforce will be in the office every single day. Some of them will be in the patch every single day. Some of them may work with businesses and residents in their locality from other partners, and some of them may indeed work from home. For me as a leader of the council, I'm outcome driven. If performance is dropping and you're acknowledging that, then please let me know, and we need to focus on that and understand why. Is that around resource? Is it around the KPIs? Or is it other challenges that that team may or may not be facing? I'm glad that you acknowledge that you are not against agile remote home working, which I don't want to push words in your mouth. In regards to our policy and position, as always in my response, that will come up for annual review, which is good governance, which we would always undertake. That work is ongoing by myself, Councillor Webb, and the Chief Executive as Head of Paid Service. If you have any concerns around that, then please let us know. The most important thing is when a resident or a business contacts us, either in person, at our desk here or at Thetford, or picks up the phone to us, that they get a good level of service, a good response in a timely manner. And that's what I've instructed the Head of Paid Service to ensure we do, and I believe we're doing across all of our services.
Thank you. Councillor Attewell?
Okay, thank you. My question's for the leader. Thank you for your report, in which you definitely failed to mention anything about Breckland Bridge. Could you tell me why the agenda item to discuss the Breckland Bridge business plan was pulled from today's agenda? And will you take this opportunity in public to apologise to all the Breckland council taxpayers for having to write off over £500,000 worth of their money, which equates to almost 2 years of council tax receipts for this council? I think it would be the right and proper thing for you to take the opportunity to do that, Sam. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I'll allow Councillor Hewitt to come in around the position for why today's agenda item was pulled, because that was in his name from the Cabinet position. In relation to the work undertaken through Breckland Bridge, look, Roger, Breckland Bridge was set up for 2 reasons. One was around the regeneration project in Thetford, and the second was to build homes in our communities where actually we have bits of land in our control and we think we could deliver that. Breckland Bridge has gone through iterations, as you know, through the business plans, and I know that you've been one of those individuals who have held us and the Breckland Bridge to account in relation to that. I never got elected as a local councillor, became leader of the council to write off large swathes of debt. The challenge is that this has been imposed upon us by this government around LGR, and we have legal challenges which we've got to undertake. Breckland Bridge cannot continue if LGR comes forward. There is no Breckland Bridge because there is no Breckland Council in that regard. In relation to the working capital itself, that was always going to be a risk if at any point the JV came to a stop. It was a working capital process to allow that to continue to work through. The margins of profit from Breckland Bridge were not so that that debt could be, the working capital could be eroded over the life of that activity. It was a risk which this council undertook because actually we never thought LGR would be a thing. Breckland has never been in favour of LGR, so we thought that we would be here for another 50, 100 years and continue to deliver those programmes of activity which Breckland Bridge was set up to do around regeneration, delivering a £8 million cinema riverside complex and delivering much needed housing and affordable social housing in our communities as well. But I'll allow Paul just to refer to the technical reason as to why the paper's been delayed for today.
Thank you, Sam. The paper, Councillor Attewell, that we took to Cabinet last Monday said that a proposal that we felt would be the best way to enable the bridge partnership to continue, to drive some form of housing growth in the short term, but in the light of the local government reorganisation and the abolition of Breckland Council in 2 years' time. That proposal that was agreed by Cabinet in principle was made at the same time as our budget proposals, which were timetabled to do so, at the same time that the bridge business plan, as we're required to provide at the start of each year. And that proposal was shared with our bridge partners, the local press, and members of the public. We were hopeful, and you well know that there might be more information coming in the light of the LGR. You may recall, everyone in this House, that the original ambition and plan for the LGR was it should have been scheduled for around the start of this year. But whilst we are required to meet our budget and our planning deadlines, it has become very clear, and Sam mentioned this earlier on, that the government does not seem to be required to meet theirs. We can wait no longer. There's been a huge amount of information, misinformation, and let's be blunt, downright fabrication of information since the Cabinet report was recommended in both the press and in the social media. And we cannot ignore that, nor should we, as a council, be required to act in isolation, doing what we think is right on behalf of our residents and our taxpayers. We recognise, Councillor Atwell, that significant sums are at stake as a result of the abolition of this council, and therefore any decision that this council should make should not be seen to be rushed or should not be seen to be influenced by social media and media reports. So I concluded, because the paper was in my name, that the most sensible and prudent thing to do was to pause the decision today until cooler heads can prevail. And the facts and the reasoning for everyone are both clear, transparent, and in context of the national picture before moving forwards. But I can assure you, Councillor, and those who have expressed concerns inside and outside of this place, well-meaning and otherwise, that the proposal that was recommended by Cabinet remains, in my view, the most financially advantageous for our residents and taxpayers, who through the Bridge Partnership have financially benefited over the last 10 years, Councillor Atwell, by more than £3.5 million. Money that we have raised through the Bridge Partnership, irrespective of the investment that government have made to Thetford to make that an even better place to live, money that we have raised to enable us to provide the services that our vulnerable residents really do need. And I am not going to apologise at all for that.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Lovely, thanks for the question, and myself and Councillor Ashby and Councillor Borrett have already discussed this. We are looking to make sure that as we move forward in LGR and the new authority in 2027 in a shadow form inherits all of the services of both tiers of government, that the decisions being made by our colleagues at North County Council are not going to adversely impact the delivery of much needed care facilities both for children and adults. That work's ongoing. Second part to that is if North, via the County Council, are going to be disposing of those, Councillor Suggett is looking at whether any of those facilities may be appropriate for us to acquire to deliver such types of activities we've done previously around housing and homelessness across the whole of the district. I haven't got a response for you yet. It only came out in the report on Monday, but just to reassure you that Cabinet colleagues are well versed on it and are currently working with the team to understand the so what and if at all that we can work through that as a local council and possibly acquire.
Thank you. Councillor Kyberd.
Thank you, Chairman. A question for the leader. The land charges delays have hit the EDP recently, and I understand that the root cause of these delays has been with the implementation of new software. Is the leader able to tell us what the current improvement rate is? Thank you.
So following on from the question that we received from with notice, I can say that we have some further improvements made to the service. So we're still not happy with the level of service, and a hunk of that comes down to the product, and we're working really hard with the suppliers of the product to still see what further implementations we can make. But the land charges team and some of their colleagues have worked really hard, really diligently to make that that time of those searches being completed. It was reported in the press to be 40 days. Last week in my response to the question under notice, it was 33 days. And as of this week, it's gone down to 23 days. And that's down to the hard work that the team have put in changing some of the things that they can change with how they've been working and how they've been dealing with the system. We've proactively written out to agents and users that we have on our database to bring them up to speed with where we're at, and if they have any concerns, that they can come forward to us. We're working and dealing with what the things are that we know and that we can change. But if there is anything else what any other service users have been finding, that would be really helpful for us to know and be at the front foot of that. But the team have worked really hard to get that brought down. We'll continue to work hard with the service provider and with the team. We're looking to recruit to get an extra person in there to help the team. It's much more of a manual process to what it was on our previous system, which is where one of the challenges are. But I would just like to stress the thanks to the team. They've come under a huge amount of pressure with this. We appreciate how difficult it is time for people when they're looking to move to want to get land charges done. And we do appreciate that. And the team have worked really hard in order to do that. But I would just like to make a plea as well to people that would like to have land charges done to just, as always, ensure that they look to get that done in as timely a fashion as possible, so it's not something which they leave to the last minute. But thank you for the question.
Councillor Bainbridge.
Thank you, and I'm aware that my question is to the leader. I'm aware that the leader referred to it in his opening statement, but it is still worth asking, is the leader aware of the general thanks and support from the farming community of the recent big breakfast held by Breckland? They were very appreciative of, as well as for the breakfast, as farmers always are, of how it achieved many informal meetings across the room with Yana, which is important to this industry where people work entirely alone, and of course with Breckland council officers and others who were there. So the community in my...
Lovely. Thanks, Gordon, for your question and for the comments you received from partners and colleagues. Just to confirm, Breckland's commitment to our rural sector is so important. We are the only council I'm aware of in the Eastern region has a dedicated rural agricultural officer who is out there day in, day out supporting our residents and our businesses, not here in the office, but out on the patch where they need us most. And partners across Norfolk, where it's the RNAA, Yana, the Farm and Community Network, the NFU, the CLA, all have praised Breckland for the work we're doing to support what is a very fragile part of our economic system here within Norfolk. They've been challenged immensely through changes this government have imposed upon them, and actually they feel immensely isolated. It is an isolated job being a farmer. Your office is a glass box on top of four wheels, Monday to 65 days a year. The purpose of this was to allow people to come together to build those networks, both professionally and to provide that wider support. This is one of many we will do, and it shows our commitment for our Inspiring Communities activity, that it isn't just around business, it's around those other sectors within our locality as well.
Thank you. Councillor Goodwin-Morris.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. A question, please, to Councillor Suggett, the Cabinet Member for Planning. The local press has it that Norwich Cattle Market is actually moving into Breckland. Can Councillor Suggett give me an update on what planning moves have been made in respect of that move?
I would just like to say, with regards to the livestock market, we are really lucky to have such an asset in the county of Norfolk. And I know, as what the leader just mentioned about our rural community, it's a really important piece of infrastructure for us to have in the eastern region with regards to the movement of livestock and it being in a TB-free region. That's a really vital piece of infrastructure for us to have here. We've had some conversations with Norwich City Council, who are responsible for the livestock market. They've had some works undertaken. We've had to change a charter from government, which is what gives them the responsibility to hold the livestock market, but it just isn't currently viable in the situation where it is in Hall Road in Norwich. They've had a conversation with us about a couple of pieces of land. It's a planning process, what they now need to go through. Nothing's been determined. Simon and the team have made them aware of some of the reports and some of the work which would need to be done if they were to submit an application. But where we currently stand, there is no application which has been received, and there has been some high-level conversations, but it hasn't gone any further than that. But we will continue to support, to offer any advice, and obviously if we have an application come forward, that will be deemed to be dealt with in the planning process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Morton.
Thank you, Chairman. My questions to Councillor Clausen. Councillor Clausen, I was pleased to see yourself, the leader, and our local MP visit Swaffham recently and join other funders of the Historic Market Town project to see some of the great progress being made to regenerate the town. We've got more new shop fronts, restoring historic buildings, and been providing some fantastic training for young people in the area. Could you share with the council what more we can expect to see in 2026, please?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. I think the very simple answer is we can look forward to seeing more of the same. The event you're referring to was when the MP, Terry Jeremy, was shown around everything that's been going on in Swaffham. And we were opening the town pound, as you're well aware, as well, which was a result of some extraordinary work which has been funded by the National Lottery, who were there in person on the visit, so they could actually see where their money had been spent. We were also had senior people from Historic England, and as well as the mayor for Swaffham and Breckland was represented as well. I think the overall thing that for me it shows is that when councils work together, then the art of the possible is absolutely incredible. It's been a long haul because this started, as you're well aware, during COVID, which was not the easiest time to make things happen. But it is now seen to be one of the best of its type in the country. And going around, then the conversations turned not just around Swaffham, but to see where the partners could look to replicate in other towns within Breckland. So it is going from strength to strength, and the latest that we have is the involvement of the youth through the Norfolk and Norwich Arts, And there, one of the things that you will be seeing and what it's going to look like, we don't really know yet, because it's one of those lovely things where they are engaging with the youth of Swaffham, and they will be bringing something that they want to share with the people, and they will be opening up a shop in their name and carrying out the business. So all of that is going to be going on this year. And as I say, I don't know what it's going to end up looking like, but it's a really exciting project. The town pound itself was another exciting project where youth were engaged and they were taught how to lime mortar and various other skills which are traditional heritage skills. And indeed, some of them are going to be taken on by the company that was there, showing them how it was going to work. So, as I say, I'm hopeful that we will see more of the same. I will hopeful that we will see it expanded. And thank you for asking it, so that we can get a little bit of how good we are at true partnership working out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This was going to be a question for Councillor Ashby, but probably the leader could pick it up. I received a letter from the Norfolk PCC's office, Sarah Taylor's, and I believe all members would have had a letter as well regarding the NIDAS, the domestic abuse organisation in Norfolk, and I just wondered if the council could I just wondered if the leader could respond on members' behalf to the letter and consider possible future funding for NIDAS. Thank you.
Lovely, thanks for the question, Peter. And I know that the Police and Crime Commissioner, Sarah Taylor, this is a passionate area for her, and continued what her predecessors started around the support for the Norfolk Integrated Domestic Abuse Service and NIDAS. I'll be aware that she's written to all councillors, and actually, hopefully, it illustrates the big challenge we are facing across our community of Norfolk, but in Breckland, and that none of us are in a position to not see that domestic abuse is taking place every single day within our streets and our villages. In relation to Breckland's commitment, we still annually are supporting the DAISY programme, our local charity here within Breckland, to the sum of £30,000 per annum. We're immensely proud of that, and that's allowed continued support for those individuals at a hyper-local level, but more importantly, the work in partnership to train and educate our Breckland officers across all of our services around domestic abuse, how to spot it and how to support those individuals. Domestic abuse and domestic violence was one of our things for our Inspiring Communities programme. We as a council made that commitment to some 6 years ago, and it is still front and centre with one of our focused activities. In relation to NIDAS, we're in conversation with the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner and other Norfolk councils to understand what the future funding of that looks like. That organisation can go from strength to strength. As you're aware, not all councils in Norfolk do fund NIDAS, and in relation to LGR, we need to ensure that organisation has some strength and financial stability, and I'll be able to update colleagues over the coming weeks and months to our position once we've confirmed that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Middleton.
For the, please, you may need to put it to somebody else. I had a discussion with Thetford Police recently, and amongst things we discussed was antisocial behaviour in the town centre and the ability to police it. The subjects of CCTV cameras and monitoring came up. I understand that the monitors are in Kings Lynn and are mainly monitoring Kings Lynn cameras in real time and only when asked by Thetford. The problem the police have is if an incident occurs, the chances of it being useful to the Thetford police are very limited because of the delay in obtaining a recording of the incident. Thetford is monitored on Friday and Saturday. My question is, why are Breckland using old, outdated CCTV cameras and low quality pictures and limited communication with the police and town centre retailers. It does not give any real benefit to Thetford Police, while monitoring remains a weekend-only real-time system. The whole CCV system is effectively not fit for purpose, and Thetford Police are also concerned about the delays caused. I understand the current situation has not been helped by Breckland reducing the CCTV budget last year.
Thanks for the question, Councillor. And this is something which keeps reoccurring, and actually I think it's a takeaway for myself and the Chief Executive to work with the Borough Commander, who is new for the west of Norfolk, to educate those officers on the beat. I'm sure they're not being misinformed, and I'm sure in turn they're not misinforming you around what our CCTV provision actually is. So to just give some context around our wider activity around antisocial behaviour, there's been some challenges recently about Breckland's continued investment around street wardens. Street wardens for us are a relatively low cost, about £30,000 per annum for an individual. A police officer, full rations and pay, as the Officer and Police and Crime Commissioner will know, is about £68,000 per officer. We're providing street wardens across our locality, in some cases in partnership with those town councils, and Thetford is one of them, and I'm immensely grateful. It gives good, strong visibility. They are not there to arrest individuals, they're there to be visible and prevent crime, and to be that hearts and minds in our communities. And as a local Thetford District Councillor, you'll be aware of the fantastic work they're undertaking. In relation to CCTV, this is not funded by anybody from the Police and Crime Commissioner or the operational police budget itself. It is funded by local authorities such as ourselves. Not all district councils in Norfolk fund CCTV at all, but Breckland is proud that we do fund CCTV. To give confirmation, if there is a live incident taking place, a police officer can ask Wind and Control to access those cameras in live time feed to the Wind and Control room at any time. And that's taken place when we've seen incidents outside the Bell Hotel, when there was that hammer incident. Those images were streamed live to those individuals during the working day, when your comments state that they're not. That is factually incorrect. When there is a live incident and a risk to life, those cameras are accessible. In relation to the number of times they're accessed, it is vast. And I'm not hearing anything from the Borough Commander that they have concerns that the partnership we have with West Norfolk Council have delivered our CCTV in partnership with us for well over a decade. If you are aware of those, please do feed them into me directly, and I'll make sure that we're addressing them, because crime and public safety is front and centre of what we're trying to achieve across our 5 market towns. And most recently, the market town of Dereham, it was one of those areas which once again was raised. And I think misinformation is still out there, and we need to try and address that as best we can. I've asked the Chairman of Scrutiny to bring forward a position around CCTV. We're trying to work with Kings Lynn at the moment to understand how we could deliver live feed to that commission so that they can see the high quality images we're delivering through that scheme, whilst ensuring that GDPR and everything else which goes with it around accessing live feeds and seeing people where they are in the high street can be achieved. But that is one of the things myself, the Director and the Assistant Director are working through at the moment.
Thank you. I am mindful we do only have 1 minute, so Councillor Atwell, as you've waited so patiently, can you please put your question forward quickly?
Thank you. A question is for Sam, which follows on from what he was just talking about, really. In terms of the street wardens, which I think is an excellent initiative and works really well in Thetford, can you tell me what communication you've had with Dereham Town Council about possibly providing street wardens in Dereham, and will they contribute to that? In my village of Swanton Morley, we set our budget the other evening, and we have set some money aside because we would like to buy into that and purchase some of that provision. But I guess that's going to be totally reliant on whether you have street wardens in Dereham. And I'll obviously bring that up outside this meeting, but I just wonder if you could give us an update on the whole NR19, street wardens, Dereham Town Council, and is that possible for my village to buy into that provision? Thank you.
So work backwards. Thank you to you and your leadership in your community as a parish chairman, and the benefits you would see in that. Absolutely happy to have a conversation and see how quickly we can achieve that to give some visibility to your residents, your businesses around the street wardens and the wider work they do around hearts and minds and that local intelligence which they're garnishing across our localities. In relation to Dereham, as it stands today, unless it's changed, Dereham Town Council are not willing to work in partnership to help fund street wardens within the locality of Dereham. As it stands, it is still only Thetford who is providing that grant funding to us in partnership. However, just to reassure members of this chamber, we have increased that establishment slightly to allow us to have that flexibility across all of our market towns. But the locality of Thetford will see a higher presence because they're working in partnership with us, and I wish to applaud the Town Council of Thetford for the work they've done with us to achieve that as we move forward.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to item 8, which is motion received, understanding order number 8. A motion has been received from Councillor Hunter Clark. Could I ask, is there a seconder for the proposal? Thank you, Councillor. Would you like to speak now or later?
I'll speak at the end, please.
Yeah, Councillor Hunter Clark.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. We're presenting this motion today because we are growing ever concerned about what is happening to our local democracy here in Norfolk and elsewhere. Let me be absolutely clear what this motion is. All this motion asks is that we, as a democratically elected district council, write to government, cross-party, that's the important part here, to put pressure on them to do the right thing. Nothing more, nothing controversial, or it shouldn't be. Many other district councils have done the same, and I'm not asking you to support anything other than what the motion states. This motion is about showing that Breckland stands up for democracy, and I'm very pleased, I believe, to have the Cabinet Member for Devolution and Local Government Reorganisation support on this, and seeing as though what the leader said in his opening remarks earlier, it appears he also agrees with what I'm about to say. We need to tell government loud and clear, stop messing with our democracy here in Norfolk. You will be aware that there is an ongoing judicial review right now, and an accelerated hearing has been granted, which will now be heard on the 19th and 20th of February. Cross-party letters like this from councils will assist such a review, as you can imagine. So don't think that this debate today is a waste of time, because it really isn't. This is a very live issue. The courts in this country have the power to tell Parliament what it is doing under secondary legislation is unlawful. I should add the fact the courts have granted this hearing shows they clearly recognise the seriousness of what is at stake here. Let me refer, if I may, to 2 or 3 of the excuses being given by County Hall as to why they think it isn't quite the right time for an election. The local government reorganisation and devolution plans could be put in jeopardy, they claim, by a change of political will. This is all on track. The leader referred to this earlier, and will happen or not, regardless of whether we hold. We are already, as a county, committed to the devolution priority programme. Elections do not affect this in any way, and no party standing in these elections has said it wants to stop devolution, nor would it have the power to do so. I would also remind colleagues of something else when it comes to the so-called capacity argument. Norfolk County Council doesn't run elections. District councils do. That's what we do here at Breckland, as you know, and I know our officers are ready and willing and fully capable of conducting those elections in May. I then hear an argument being floated that these elections should be cancelled because it will save money. Now, come on. Yes, democracy costs money. We all know that, and we factor this into our budgets every year, don't we? This really is not an argument any politician in this country should be making. That's the sort of language we hear from authoritarian regimes, not from a mature democracy. The reality today is we currently have, as many people are now saying, who are not as generous as I, county councillors squatting in County Hall with no legitimate moral mandates because, as we know, the elections were cancelled last year, and now, incredibly, they and government are trying to do it all over again. What makes it troubling for me at Breckland is that 8 members of this council are also members of the county council, and by continuing to sit as county councillors, they have really let the people of our county down. They are aiding and abetting the continued suspension of democratic accountability, and if you think I'm wrong, and I hope you will contribute in this debate and make it clear what your position is, your residents deserve to know, and you can't continue to hide behind your county council leader and her clear attempt to ensure that elections do not happen. Dangerous precedents are being set, as I've said on numerous occasions, because once we reach a point where elected officials at any level can simply decide to cancel elections for whatever excuse, we're on a slope indeed. That is the beginning of the end of representative democracy as we know it. Now, let us remind ourselves quickly of some history here. The only times elections have been cancelled in this country like this were during COVID, understandably, the Second World War, the First World War, and even then we still managed to hold a general election in 1945. Yet now we are told that local government reorganisation is justification enough to cancel elections for 1 year, then 2, and who knows, it could even be 3, couldn't it? This motion is deliberately not party political. I said all this as a Conservative member 12 months ago, you'll recall. So I genuinely urge you to put your party colours to one side. Imagine yourselves not as councillors obeying your whip, not as people with skin in the game, but simply as residents of Norfolk. If you were not sitting here as members of the council, would you really support cancelling your own right to vote? Of course you wouldn't. So let's come together. Let's write to the Minister, cross-party. I'll put my name alongside Councillor Chapman-Allen, Councillor Cogman, Councillor Attewell as group leaders. And yes, government may well ignore us, but let us ensure this council was not an accomplice in cancelling democracy. So I therefore urge you to vote for this motion, and I hope that we can stand together. There is nothing more valuable in our country than our democratic system that we all hold, or should hold, so dear to our hearts. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Hunter-Clark. Councillor Hussey, I'm just going to check. You want it to go to the floor and you'll speak after? Yep. Okay, Councillor Borrett.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to acknowledge that the proposer of the motion referenced me in his introduction. I did, in fact, go on record at the last council meeting saying that the elections need to go ahead. I would like to propose an amendment to the motion, if I may, Madam Chairman. I have actually shared it with the committee clerk, but I will read it out, if I may. So it's the same motion right to the point where it says, this council resolves to. And then after 1, I would like to delete the word right and then insert the words acknowledge that the leader has written, and then it will run to the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, and then insert on the date, the 19th of December 2025, and then go back to the original motion, urging the government not to cancel the rescheduled Norfolk County Council elections, citing, and then delete the word any, and then we have the words relevant reasons, and delete not limited to the above. So I'll just read, oh, it's gone, it's very, it's on the screen so that members can see it. I think in order that members know what they are referring to, I will just read the letter, if I may. And it says, Dear Secretary of State, I am writing in response to the ministerial statement and letter sent yesterday indicating the government's intention to support postponement of the 2026 local elections, where this is requested by local areas. This was discussed at Breckland District Council's most recent full council meeting, and I made a commitment to my fellow councillors to share my categorical opposition to this and our deep concern about both the precedent and risk to local democracy. Elections are the bedrock of our system, and it is fundamentally wrong to see them arbitrarily postponed on an annual basis. Capacity cannot be placed in the same weighting to democracy. Democracy is sacred. Councils had the chance at the start of 2025 to raise concern on the government's proposed electoral timetable, and once that was released, it was the duty of the leaders and head of paid services to create that capacity to meet the priority of need and resource adequately to hold elections. Elections and the onboarding process of new leaders, committee chairs, cabinets and leaders are all part of a well-oiled machine that senior council officers with the Local Government Association have been planning for some time. There are, rightly, significant capacity, costs and benefit issues that are being raised in relation to local government reorganisation. I think all of these need debate, scrutiny and consideration. However, I do not believe that the 2026 local elections have elections should go ahead until a statutory order is laid in Parliament confirming the new structures of local government. Yours sincerely, the leader.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Attewell?
Would you like to speak now?
Would you like to speak now or after the debate?
I'll speak after the debate.
Thank you. So we'll now take questions and debate on the amendment. Is there none?
Do we ask if they've accepted?
Council, no? No.
You're allowed to on the amendment.
Yeah.
You had Councillor Bain.
Councillor Hunter-Clark, please.
Yes, I think what the leader has written I can support. I'm disappointed that the letter wasn't shared with members. Otherwise, I could have written that amendment for you, and we could have debated your amendment today. But no, I'm very happy to accept the amendment. Going off in the interests of us all singing off the same hymn sheet, as it were. I would just ask, though, that the leader gives me permission, which I'm sure he does, given it's he's writing on behalf of this authority, that I can submit said letter as part of the judicial review, because I've said that it's very important that the judicial review will look at the opinion and position of not just Norfolk County Council, but it will look at the position of Breckland District Council and the other district councils, borough councils, city councils in Norfolk and elsewhere. So I think the leader's nodding his head there. So yes, we're in agreement for once. But I still would be very interested, as part of the debate, to hear from Councillor Kittle-Morris and various other county councillors who sit in here as to what their positions are, because I think the residents deserve to know what their positions are, because they do sit here as twin hatters. They do serve in it's not a conspiracy, I'm sure. So yes, I'm very happy to support the amendment. I'm just, as I'm speaking, thinking if there's anything else I want to say, but because I don't think to speak in this debate. But look, you know, all I would refer to is we have to make a stand as a council, and I'm very pleased that other members cross-party recognise that, because who's to say that, you know, if we allow this to happen, as residents of Norfolk, as members of this authority, who's to say that a government in the future won't turn around and say we're going to have to postpone the general election because of what's going on perhaps in the world? And I really, really do fear that. You know, this isn't some joke. We deserve to have these elections in May. If we don't have them, it will be a tragedy. So thank you for indulging me, Madam Chairman, as always. All right.
Thank you, Councillor Hunter-Clark. Councillor Bainbridge.
Thank you. I did try and get in earlier, but you obviously weren't looking this far down the room. I just wanted to say that I opposed the first cancelling of the county council elections, and I certainly opposed this one, which I think is just heaping coals on the fire. I think that no election should be cancelled. You know, the reasons are just not there now for cancelling any election today. It has been mentioned about COVID and world wars and various things. Well, maybe I'll reconsider if they happen again. But I think Hunter-Clark was reasonable, Councillor Hunter-Clark was reasonable in bringing his proposal if he was not aware of the letter this council has said. I thank Councillor Borrett for bringing in the amendment, and I will support the amendment. I just think that at the moment the government is going entirely down the wrong path with seeking to cancel elections anywhere.
Thank you. Councillor Attewell, are you?
Yeah, Sam, thank you for sending the letter, but I think it would be immensely helpful to all councillors if you would agree to share that letter with everybody. I think it would have been. So it's not just Councillor Hunter Clark, it's me as well. Somebody up that top table is like this with the button. I think it would have been immensely helpful if you could share that letter. Yes, I don't think we should be in the business of cancelling elections. I can see that there probably was some good reasons for cancelling for the first year, because there was just so much misunderstanding and grey areas regarding local government reorganisation. But I think we're at a situation now to try and postpone county council elections for a second year, and then those people, the existing councillors, more likely would sit there until 2028 is frankly not acceptable, and democracy is something that we should hold dear. So I fully support the amendment. I would have supported Councillor Hunter Clark's proposal, but I think as that letter has been sent, yeah, I'm very happy to second the amended motion. And also, just as a PS, can we please do something about this PA system? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Councillor Borrett.
Thank you very much. And I'm okay, so I'm speaking in my right to reply. Thank you for accepting my amendment. I feel very strongly about this, and as I said in the previous full council meeting when we discussed the local elections, they do need to go ahead. And I think, to quote the leader, where he was saying democracy is sacred, the fact that you can have operational reasons not to go ahead with an election is quite frankly outrageous. I would like to say that it is great to get consensus in this room on this topic, and the point that has been raised earlier on, that it is the district councils who run the elections, and Breckland has clearly stated that it has the capacity, it is capable of running the elections, so they should go ahead. And it's great to have consensus in the room. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. So if we now move to vote on the amendment put forward by Councillor Borrett, all in favour? All against? And any abstentions? Thank you. The amendment is passed. We'll move on to item 9, minutes for information only. See, mine keeps doing it as well. Item 10, committee named, unnamed substitutes. Teresa, I believe you're going to present this.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, members. I'm presenting the report on the proposed changes to substitute member arrangements across the Council's committees. At present, all committees operate with named substitutes only, and these substitutes are agreed in advance at full council and provides clarity and supports political balance. However, this system can be inflexible, and when members are unable to attend at short notice, it can lead to difficulties maintaining quorums and, in some cases, cancelled. The purpose of this report is to consider whether allowing unnamed substitutes for certain non-regulatory committees which would improve resilience, attendance and participation while still maintaining appropriate safeguards. In December, the Governance and Audit Committee supported this report, recognising that not all committees carry the same statutory or regulatory responsibilities. And at that committee, members were clear that regulatory committees such as planning and licensing must continue to operate with name substitutes only. And that's due to the importance of mandatory training, consistency and decision-making robustness. Governance and Audit also requested that whilst it should retain named substitutes, additional named substitutes should be permitted to improve flexibility and reduce the risk of incorrect meetings at Governance and Audit. Members further emphasised the importance of training so that those acting as substitutes are suitably prepared to step in when required. So taking all of this into account, the report recommends the following: that named substitutes remain for regulatory committees, that's Planning Committee, Licensing Committee and the Committee of the Licensing Authority, that named substitutes remain for Governance and Audit Committee with additional substitutes permitted, that unnamed substitutes are allowed for Overview and Scrutiny Commission and general purposes. And number 4, that the Constitution be amended accordingly to reflect the revised substitute arrangements, and this includes updates to the committee procedures and members' responsibilities. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. Could I please have a proposer for the Councillor Kybad?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm happy to propose this, which has had full discussion at overview and scrutiny. I believe my Vice Chairman, Councillor King, would like to add 2 words to paragraph 2 for further clarification, if she'd like to speak now.
Yes, as it's just been presented, the second bullet point was said to refer to named substitutes for Governance and Audit Committee with additional named substitutes permitted. This is because it's a small committee. We often have difficulty ensuring quorum, but the process of audit does require that the meetings always take place. Now, I'm not sure, looking at it, whether additional substitutes permitted reflects what we said at the meeting. I've discussed this with the chairman, and one way of dealing with it is to insert after additional the words unnamed substitutes permitted and follow that with if necessary. I would prefer named substitutes to be added so that we have perhaps 4 rather than 2. I'm not sure how many we have, but if we can't find people willing to be named substitutes in addition to the ones we've got, then I think it's unnamed substitutes permitted if necessary. Although there's no mandatory training for governance and audit, it is something where I think where you need previous knowledge, and having named substitutes is important so that they build up a bit of experience and know what's going on. So the way it was presented just puts that doubt in my mind whether I should be suggesting unnamed and if necessary, or saying named.
Councillor King, can I just please, for clarification, are you seconding an amendment? So we're amending the motion put forward.
I'm proposing to make a slight amendment to bullet point 2 before a vote is taken.
Right, so are you seconding? No, you're proposing?
I'm proposing a slight amendment.
And Councillor Kybird a second.
Perhaps he could.
And Councillor Hunt-Clark.
On the amendment.
On the amendment? Sorry.
Just generally. I can't switch it on. Sorry, there we are. Sorry, just quickly, sorry, Madam Chairman. Governance, it's an interest of mine, as you know, and I just want to take this opportunity very quickly, because I didn't get a chance earlier because we ran out of time, to thank Councillor Clark in his role as Chairman of Overview and Scrutiny Commission for his very comprehensive answer to my question surrounding governance. As you know, it's important for any council to get that right. On this, very happy to support it. I think it provides some flexibility whilst maintaining good governance. So yeah, our group very happy to support.
Chairman, if I may, can I just confirm where I believe we are? I believe we have a proposed amendment for Councillor King that has been seconded by Councillor Kybird. Councillor Hunter-Cart has commented on that amendment. The amendment, as I understand it, is on bullet point 2, that it becomes that named substitutes remain for Governance and Audit Committee with additional unnamed substitutes permitted if necessary. I believe I've got that correct. So we continue to debate the proposed amendment. And then we'll take on a vote on whether we're happy with that amendment. Thank you.
Are there any questions? No, so we'll move straight to, can I please have a show of hands, all in favour? And that's unanimous, so we'll move on then to item 11, nominations for committee and other seats. Councillor Suggett? None. Councillor Cogman? None. Councillor Hunter-Clark? None. No. We voted on the, we'll go back. We only voted on the amendment, not the recommendation.
Yeah. So the amendment becomes a substantive motion. So the councillors are quite correct. If we take a vote on all 4 recommendations within that proposal, that would be appropriate. Thank you.
Okay then, so we'll take them individually. No, all en bloc? There we go. Can I please have a show of hands to accept them all en bloc? And as I've already done, Councillor Suggett on 11 and Councillor Cogman, Councillor Hunter-Clark, none? And Councillor Attwell, none? No? And Rob?
Chairman, I appreciate I'm not a councillor, but we have 3 unaligned councillors who are represented on this council, and they have a seat on Overview and Scrutiny Committee. So the Democratic Services team have been working with the 3 councillors concerned to see if there's a nomination for that vacant seat, and I understand Councillor Sarah Taylor is willing to put forward her name as the unaligned representative on Overview and Scrutiny. Thank you.
Councillor Attwell.
Could I just ask a follow-up on unaligned councillors, please, Rob? It's come to my attention that unaligned councillors are not necessarily offered the opportunity to sit down with the finance officers to just have a briefing on the budget. Groups that's automatically offered to them to be able to have a group briefing on the forthcoming budget and discuss that in some detail, but that isn't offered to those individual councillors who are unaligned. And is that something that we really should be doing? I think we should, just because they don't form a political group. They shouldn't have to be going to ask for it. That should automatically be offered as it is to the leaders of the groups.
Thank you, Councillor Attwell. As you'd appreciate, if we offer a briefing to one group, we're obliged to offer it to all groups, and so it's routine that we offer all group leaders and their groups briefings on the budget and any other subject that's relevant. The offer to brief any councillor, unaligned or a member of the group, applies on the budget and all other matters. So if the unaligned members would like briefings on the budget, then we're more than willing to do so.
You haven't really quite answered it. What I'm really looking for is an assurance that in the future you will automatically offer those members a briefing in the same way that you offer a briefing to group leaders. And I think that that's quite important that they are offered it rather than having to ask it. I think it's just a courtesy thing. I think that should happen.
Yes, we will offer unaligned members a briefing if we haven't done already. I assumed we had done already. Of course, we can't treat them as a group. We will treat them as individual councillors, and that offer will be made.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to item 12, amendments to the Constitution, if any, and there are none. And item 13, any other items which the chairman decides are urgent. And there are none. So thank you ever so much. And for those of you that can stay behind for training, we'll just take a short comfort break. Thank you.